this an consistent application of the principle, because the observer and the place that's emitting the light should have a layer 1 through 5 that where the light is refracting upward equally. But he has the origin refracting the light up from layer 1 through 5 over a globe, and the observer only in layer 5. That doesn't make sense, and it's not consistent.
Lemon, do you think this is worthwhile discussing? We don't see a diagram. We
Yeah, what?
most of us here don't even know what
Lemon,
the hell
Lemon,
we're
we're talking about something, and you just go off on this long monologue about something else with a bunch of inconsistent, contradictory statements. Is everything you said is contradictory to what you're saying?
Well,
You're
the thing is,
hilarious,
he didn't
dude.
have the layers
You're hilarious.
consistently. So the layers were not consistently spread, and so you don't need to be a rocket scientist to see inconsistency and submit the truth. So I think the downfall of some of these globers and flat earthers is their arrogance. You know, their lack of common sense, and it takes an outsider to point out, "Hey, the emperor has no clothes. I don't care about your degree or whatever. The emperor has no clothes, and you're not noticing it."
It's the
You should
kettle calling
self-reflect
pot
sometime.
black. Jesus, Lemon.
And so it's good to have outsiders like, me and others just to give us a fresh perspective and just, help us all come to the truth in humility.
So the problem is that you just ramble on a bunch of stuff, and you don't actually explain anything. You just ramble on more stuff with more stuff and keep on continuing to ramble on and monologue stuff without explaining what you're actually trying to say. That's the problem.
Well, the problem, Maxwell, is he didn't have a question. If you didn't understand, most of the time you have a question. You didn't ask about anything that I just explained, which shows that you have no curiosity and you're just arrogantly
That's
assuming that.
because if I
I
start
can
asking you questions about what you're saying, you'll eventually say, well, I don't know, because that's what we're trying to find out. And that's what you'll say.
I don't know about my own model. What?
That's
If
exactly
you
it.
didn't understand
It's
something
already
that I
it's
was
already
saying,
been
just
asked
ask me.
several times to you, and you eventually come to the point,
Not asking
well, we
now,
don't know. That's what
whatever.
we're
If
trying
you
to
have a
figure out.
question,
This
I'll
is what
answer
you
it
say.
to the
This
best of
is
my
why we're trying
ability.
to come up with these different views, because we don't know. That's what you say.
If you have a question, I'll answer it. But if you didn't understand something about what I was trying to explain, then you should have asked. If you were being intellectually honest and if you were curious, but your arrogance says he's not making any sense. I'm just going to
See,
dismiss
here
him.
comes the ad
That's
homs. Here
it.
comes
No,
the ad
forget
homs.
that.
Well,
Don't
sometimes
forget the
ad
ad
homs
homs
are
some more.
placed. Sometimes ad homs are placed in the correct way. It's unfortunate that that's how life is, but sometimes they fit. Have you ever heard the saying that the shoe fits? Sometimes it does. And it's not it's wrapping it up and saying, okay, well, we can chuck Maxwell out because he's just a fucking moron. You're not. You're not getting, there's two people communicating who are not hearing each other. In this case, I think that Lemon heard you, but I don't think you heard him. I just don't think you understood
Well,
him. And
he took it. My opinion is that he took it as an insult, so he ad homed me back.
Well,
That's what I feel
ad
about it.
argumentum would be you asking, what do you mean by a layer?
he's
What do you
Hey,
mean
can
by
I?
this 1 through 5? That would be ad argumentum and against the argument. Ad hom is like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm just going to dismiss you. I'm going to go against the person as opposed to the argument. There's the difference. It's whether or
Fine,
not we're
Lemon.
addressing
Hey,
the argument or avoiding addressing the argument by only addressing the person to avoid addressing the argument. That's when ad hom becomes ridiculous.
right.
Lemon, you're doing exactly what we
But
were
he's right
talking about
about this.
earlier.
If he had a
He's
question, then he should have asked a question. If not, then he's not showing any cause to have something negative to say against Lemon because he hasn't addressed any of his questions towards Lemon. So he's just saying he already knows the outcome. So in that instance, in that circumstance, then Maxwell would be the one who's in the wrong here because not that that's not saying Lemon's model is correct or his thoughts are correct. It's just saying he decided to not listen and not listen enough to have any questions. All his objective was to tell Lemon that he is going to do the same thing and this is the negative things that he does every time he comes in. And that wasn't it wasn't an even equal exchange of ideas. It wasn't a conversation. It really was a sense of arrogance. Like, and it's not, again, Maxwell, it's not judging you as a person. It's just judging your action.
Can
You know,
I,
that's all it is.
yeah, I've been invited out to lunch and I just wanted to speak to Maxwell for a few minutes. I haven't had an opportunity to talk to him in months. Hey, Maxwell, could you meet me in YouTube live room for a few minutes? Oh,
Sure.
okay.
Yeah, I did a little bit of a tweak over here. You see, I added a few more rooms. I added the conspiracies, hoaxes, 9/11. You know, in that neighborhood. If you want to talk about it, we got that room. The other one is about medicines, you know, health, vaccinations, etc. And then the other one would be for debates and one-on-ones, etc. Hopefully, we can kind of, you know, figure out where we fit whoever wanna come into the big panel and think is gonna get derailed by certain specific topic. If Piche want to talk about 9/11, then we all can follow him to the hoaxes and conspiracy rooms. You know,
Yeah.
if molecular alchemy want to talk about medicine, or want to talk about something really deep, then we can all follow him to the health room. You know, if we want to do that. And then if somebody want to go hard, like no, I want you. I want to debate you. Let's go to the one-on-one debate, and they all got a 50 members, 50 people cap, which is enough for now because all I got is a few hundred people. So yeah, we'll see how it's gonna work out. You know. Thank you for the feedback, dude. Thank you for the advice. Yeah, it only helps. Just while you guys were talking, doing these little tweaks on my phone, it's kind of easy to do it on the phone. These little additions.
One of the things in Max's defense, though, and I think one of his points that he's trying to make is that when you are having a conversation, if you say too much, it's hard to come, to address it because you just don't know where to begin. If a person makes 7 or 8 or 9 points in one saying, how do you address that? You'd almost have to have a pen and write down each point and then try to, remember, draw up something. So I think what Max's point may be is that when you're having a back and forth, you have to kind of keep it a little more concise.
Yeah, that's called gish galloping. It's a deliberate tactic that people use in order to just overwhelm the other person.
Well, that's life. Life comes at you from 10 different ways, not just one. You don't just say, oh, I got to walk, then I got to eat, then I got to breathe. It all happens at one time. And you can still pick one. That doesn't predicate you, not being able to pick one thing to address. If you feel overwhelmed, that's kind of a personal problem. Now, the other person like me, can gish gallop less, but you have to pick something to respond to. That's your problem, not mine.
No, it's a deliberate tactic that is meant to shut down the other person by giving them a fire hose of claims and statements that are unsupported, and that the other person has like a dozen different points that need to be addressed by all the claims that the gish galloper has made, and it's an unfair debating tactic.
Well, the counter tactic to myopically focus on one thing when the truth is revealed in 5 other things that are not in the one thing is also a debate tactic as well. To just narrowly telescopically focus the discussion on one thing when there's 5 other things that need to be addressed that all together as a whole picture give you the truth. So that goes both ways.
No, it doesn't. In an actual discussion, you go over points one by one. That's how people do things. That's how adults do things. When real people talk about issues, they address the issue at hand instead of inundating the other person with a dozen side issues.
But that's sterile. That's dead. When you live...
That's just your
There's parts of you that are growing that you don't even know about. There's a process happening over here that's happening in the background that you don't know about. Several things are happening at once. It's not organic. I reject that conversational style. Now, for the sake of the person that I'm talking with, I can try to adopt it, but it's sterile and it's dead. And you're not going to get to great truths that way. I'm just letting you know.
Brenda, really has a point on this one because see, as a listener, when you're sitting back and you're listening to two people talk, you get lost in the conversation because if one person rattles off 12 points and the other person only gets a second or two to talk about one and then the other person does 12, it's just really hard to listen.
Fair enough. But that sounds like a them problem, not a me problem. I can try to address it, but they need to learn how to juggle other things too. How about we come to the middle and I try to pare it down to like 2 or 3 Gish Gallop points, and the other person tries to step their game up and address several things at one time? How about that?
That sounds fair.
Yeah, that's a good beginning. Maybe then maybe we evolve to just 1 point at a time, no galloping. That would be the perfect way to do it.
You know,
It's never gonna be perfect anyway.
I always wonder what Gish Galloping was, so that's what it is.
Yes,
It's named
spitballing, throw. Go ahead, Brenda.
it's named after Dr. Dwayne Gish, who was a creationist back in the day. I don't know, the 50s and 60s, 70s, who used this as a debating tactic, and it was a conscious, deliberate tactic with whose intent was to inundate the conversation with a dozen side issues in order to derail the conversation. Um, yeah, that was it, you know. Da, da, da. I
How
haven't had
smart was he to come up with that?
I haven't had any coffee yet this morning. I My tongue doesn't work.
Poor
You need to
thing.
just inject it.
And that's what we like. That's Tweet mentioned a point
You guys
earlier,
can
Brenda. I
park
don't know
in
if you
front of
heard it.
here if you need to. It's fine to park here.
Okay,
Yeah, you're welcome.
Uh,
Yeah,
All
park
right.
as
Mike,
much as you need.
I'll park here.
Mike.
Oh, sorry.
uh, Yeah, Brenda, what Tweet was saying earlier that it's good to have you as an addition, to participate in these rooms because I really do appreciate it. You always step up, and when I ask for like, hey, I need somebody to come in one-on-one debates, you are always in first, and I thank you for that. And it doesn't have to be about flat Earth; it could be about uh, any other conspiracy. It could be about a religion or whatever. So I thank you for that, and you're smart because you know the fallacies. You know a lot about the history, about the roots of a lot of little topics. So yeah, you're awesome, Brenda. I always welcome you here. Thank you. And you are humble enough